Greg Mohr, founder of Franchise Maven, is a master franchisor that helps people navigate the franchising process and find the right franchise for their goals and skills. Franchising is a viable option if you're looking to start a business or expand your existing business. In this episode, Greg explains the benefits of franchising, such as having a proven playbook to follow and the potential for financial freedom. He also discusses different types of franchise ownership, including single unit, area developer, and master franchisors. You will also learn what it takes to start a franchise, the importance of choosing the right franchise, as well as the key factors to consider when turning a business into a franchise or buying a franchise, such as profitability, scalability, and market demand.
We're going to go into the Wayback Machine many, many years ago. Back when I was in high school, but back in the late 70s, what most of us did in high school is we got jobs at fast food places. Well, mine first job just happened to be at Taco Bell. Maybe they were hiring at the time, maybe because I like tacos, who knows? But that's where I got my first job. And I started working at Taco Bell, moving up within Taco Bell's and became a manager. And I helped one of the person that owned some Taco Bell's run some of her Taco Bell restaurants. And came to find out that she's actually a master franchisor for Taco Bell, and she owned 50 different Taco Bell units on that. So that was my first foray into franchising. I really enjoyed that. I really liked helping her build her restaurants up throughout the Sacramento, California area. They had a playbook, step-by-step playbook. Just walk into anyone you wanted to, they're all going to be exactly the same. Really easy to do, really easy to build those up. I got into more restaurants for about 15 years. Then I became a microelectronic circuit engineer, did that for about 15 years, got a degree in electrical engineering and physics, got my degree in business. And while I was getting my degree in business, I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, that just about ruined my corporate career for me. It's like, wow, there's something better out there. I got to do something better. So while I was in engineering, an engineering friend of mine and myself, we bought a dry cleaners, privately owned one. We got storage units, privately owned as well. And then I got some rental properties. So we were doing that on the side as we were engineers. But finally, after reading Robert's book, I just, had to get out of it. Got out of the corporate world, sold my shares of everything to my friend who also got out of the corporate world at the same time. So I was done with the private businesses, and I said, I've got to go into business for myself. That private business was a bit of a challenge, because if you don't know anything about dry cleaning and you don't have anybody to help you, you got to do it all yourself. You got to learn it all yourself, which was a bit of a challenge on that. I got to tell you that. You're not knowing anything about the dry cleaning business other than drop your clothes off and they come out spotless and clean. I wanted something where I had a team of people helping me. And I remember my franchising days back at Taco Bell, and I said, I got to get into a franchise myself. So that's where the idea of franchising came from back in high school, and that's why I got into franchising, because of that.
Okay, so franchising in your eyes was like a way to start a business without kind of starting from the ground up, as in there's already a rule book, something to follow, something that will kind of help guide you as you grow and build the business. So you've left your corporate job. You're now working for yourself, or you've gone into business with yourself after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What did those first few years look like? What exactly were you doing? How are you kind of financing your life? Because, without a job, most people think that you have no money coming in, but clearly in this case, you had this kind of part of your life figured out.
Oh, absolutely, Sam. So what for the first few years looked like after that is that it was a little bit of a challenge going out there and finding my first franchise. Trying to do it yourself is very confusing because there's so many different franchises out there, and I had about 20 different franchise development people calling me. I got a hold of a franchise consultant. Who knew they existed? I didn't at the time. They really helped me narrow it down and smooth out the process, make it a whole lot less confusing. So I got into my first franchise, my one and only franchise that I got into, which was a telecommunications consulting franchise, a service industry franchise. So you're asking about the money coming in with the service industry franchise, which is different than your typical brick and mortar type franchise. You can start bringing in business right away. You just go through training. Now you're out there talking to your clients on that. So within the first few months, you have money coming in pretty quickly on that one. The part that was a challenge for me was the fact that what I wanted to do was really set my own schedule, do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. So I wanted a business where I worked from home, running my own business and doing my own thing when I wanted to. The biggest challenge was wanting to work on that business because when you're at home working and you've been out in the corporate world for 30 years, going to a place where you have the schedule, you have everything going on, everybody running around doing stuff. Now you're on your own. Now you decide that you need to work on your business. You need to build that up, but you need to get yourself a good set schedule in order to do that. So probably the first few months were the biggest challenge was staying away from the distractions that were around the house and really concentrating on that business and setting myself a plan of action. Talk to this many clients, get this many customers, follow up with this, do marketing, advertising. The franchise was great. Dennis Schooley, who runs Schooley Mitchell Telecommunications Consulting franchise, just had a plan, just outlined for me on that. So I just had to take that plan, break it apart into certain time segments throughout the day, and make certain that I concentrated during those time segments on the day of working on different aspects of the business. His training was absolutely amazing. Really got me off to a good start in franchising.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's the important part about franchising, from what I understand, is you can come into the business with your idea of how it's going to work, but realistically, the playbook's there for a reason. It's tried and tested. If you just follow the steps, then, you're going to see success. And maybe once you're a bit more established or a bit more, along the way, then you can make your little tweaks and all that kind of stuff. But I've come to realize that the important part of starting a franchise is just following the playbook, because they want you to succeed, because your success is their success.
That's correct, Sam, because what you're looking at there is with the franchise, yes, you get everything. They've, like you said, they've made the mistakes before, they've ironed all those out, they've got that playbook. You do pay for it. So you do have a franchise fee, a one-time franchise fee, generally around $50,000, doesn't matter which franchise it is. And then they've got their ongoing royalties, which is between about 5 and 10%. So as you're investigating the franchise, you make certain that they're making all their money off the royalties. And as you said, Sam, the more you are successful, which means you're paying more royalties, but you're bringing in more money, the more successful they are. So yes, they have a vested interest in making certain that you're as successful as possible so that they can be as successful as possible.
Yeah. And from the sounds of it, it's almost like you bought yourself a profitable full-time job for yourself. But I understand some people, when they're buying a franchise, they may want to work full-time for a bit so they kind of know what's going on, and then kind of semi step out of the way, or buy a franchise and let it run and then just take profit off the top. But I wonder if you can talk to me in more detail about the different types of franchise ownership that there are.
Great question, Sam, because that's what a lot of people do think is that they're buying themselves a job on that. I knew when I was going into the franchise that I was doing that I was just buying myself another job because I was going to be the sole person running it and the sole person doing it. And that's what I wanted out of it to do, is just me. Not all franchises are like that. Whether you get into a brick and mortar franchise, the McDonald's, Taco Bell's, all in, automotive, hair salons, all those, or you get into the service industry, which is a lot less of an investment. There are many of those out there that already have what they call their semi-passive model on that, and they already have people running it semi-passively. That means you keep your day job, you keep your other business, you manage the manager, you manage the profit and loss statements. You're looking at around 10 to 15 hours a week. And for most of my people, especially my investors, but I say this to anybody, you don't want that business to revolve around you. Because if that business revolves around you, then you can't take the time out to do what you want to do. Now, for me, I was fine with that. I could do whatever. It didn't make any difference to me. So that's more of a personal decision. But for the most part, you want that business to be run by somebody else so that on your exit plan, if you do decide you want to sell it one day, that business doesn't revolve around you. It's just much easier to get that business sold on that. And it's a lot easier to spend time with friends, family, go on vacations and that sort of thing. But semi-passive is the way to go. Many different franchises do that, many different industries that you can do that in.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's lots of benefits to having a franchise, right? So you can make, your own schedule, you can be in charge of your own income, that kind of stuff. And all that stuff's well and good, but that's the kind of like selling points of getting a franchise. I'm wondering what mistakes people make when they're choosing a franchise, because in my eyes, if I was to go open a McDonald's, I don't think I'd do a good job of it, just because I don't believe in the business. So I'm wondering, what are the kind of things that people make mistakes on when picking a franchise? Because, I'm sure it'd be the same for you. If you were to open a brick and mortar franchise back then, it wasn't what you were looking for. You wanted to work from home, you wanted to set your own schedule, but everyone knows that McDonald's is open 24 hours a day, or at least most of the day. Talk to me about some of the things that we can avoid when picking a franchise.
Well, your point is very good, Sam, is that one, when you're picking a franchise, you really do have to feel good about it. It doesn't necessarily have to be an industry that you ever looked at before or ever interested in. But if you're going to get into a franchise, make certain you know the industry, you know the business, and you know what makes them profitable and how the money comes in and how long term can this be sustained? So don't look at things that are in fashion. Don't make the mistake of thinking that something's popular today is going to be popular tomorrow. So don't get clouded by your judgment just because you drive by and you see a whole line out of that whatever it is business on that one. Look at the industry, look at the business, and see how sustainable is that in the future. Always, when you're looking into franchises and you're deciding on a franchise to invest in, always talk to as many franchisees who are currently running that franchise as possible so that you start hearing the same thing over and over again. Hopefully good. If it's bad, then obviously it's time to move on to something else on that one. I always do that and get advice from some local people. Like here in the United States, we have what we call the SCORE chapter, the SCORE. And what that is that's business people that have been in the area for a number of years. So they have some good advice, good free advice. We have also the Chamber of Commerce here in the U.S. on that as well, which are business-oriented people. So, join the Chamber of Commerce, talk to them, but get advice from other people that are in the area. Always a good thing to do on that one. And I do have out on my website my 7 mistakes to avoid on that. It's free to download if you wanted to check it out. But those are just a few of the things to take a look at when you're getting into a franchise.
Nice. So I think now we kind of got like a rough idea for what we should look for when we're looking for a franchise, how we should approach it, and all the kind of methodology of getting to the first step of, going, right, I'm going to open this type of franchise. But I want to ask you about something you mentioned right in the beginning, which is you said that the person that owned a Taco Bell franchise, she was a master franchisor. So I wonder if you could talk to me about the different types of, is it franchisee or franchisor? You get what I mean? As in, if there's a master franchisor, is there a rookie franchisor? Like, how does that work?
So, yeah, great question, Sam. So there's different levels of franchising. You've got your single unit franchise. Most people get into one unit at a time. So one unit, it could be one territory. Your territory is going to vary. If it's a brick and mortar, it's probably going to be a miles radius because people only drive so far to get into it before they'll go to someplace else. So service industry, it's going to be by a household income and population density with that household income on that one. One single unit, that's where most people start out at. Then you move into what we call your area developer franchise. So if you really like that franchise system and you want to pick up more than one territory, so an area developer, you'd be picking up 3 territories, 5 territories. So you may pick up your own city on that. If you're a service industry franchise, it's pretty easy to do. You can put another office out into the other territories if you want to, but you don't necessarily have to. With the brick and mortar franchises, that's a little bit more intensive because you've got more of an investment and you're building something there. So you may build out your first location the first year, and then the second year you might build out 2 more locations. So you'll have a plan of action, but you hold a big horizontal space where you've got more of an area to do it, and you own and you operate all the franchises that are within that area. Once you get into master franchising, what you do is now you are similar to an area developer, is where you'll pick out, say, like 5 units or 5 territories that's going to be in your area itself. What you'll do is you'll develop that first area yourself. You'll have your own pilot unit right there. That'll be your training unit. Then what you're going to do is you'll get a discounted fee for that area that you bought, that you invested in, and you'll sell those other 4 areas to somebody else. So they probably will charge you about half of the normal franchise fee for the different areas. So if it's normally 40,000, they'll sell them to you for 20. Now you go and sell those areas for 40,000. So you make your money back on those areas. In addition, as we talked about the royalties that you have earlier, you're now going to share those royalties with the franchisor. So if the royalties are 6%, the franchisor will take 3, you will take 3. For doing all that and for getting all that, what your role will be is in your pilot area is that after you sell those franchise territories in your area, is that you'll train those new franchisees that are coming in. Those will be your group of people. So the franchisor doesn't have to do that. And that's why they'll give you the royalties, they'll give you the discount on the franchise fee for the different territories. So as a master, you train all the other ones, and that's your team of people down there. Great way to build up an annuity, because now you can still turn your pilot unit over to somebody else to manage so that you're just overseeing all the operations there.
Okay. So like you could finance your pilot unit by selling off the rest of the area or committing to get into the rest of the area. Is that something that a lot of people do, or do people tend to come and go, oh, I've taken this money out of my savings, or I have this money saved, or I've taken a bank loan? Like, how do people tend to normally fund their pilot unit or their single unit?
I get a combination of two. So here in the US, we've got a couple of different ways you can go. If you do not want to use other people's money, if you want to use your own money, you don't want to go into debt, then normally what people will do is if you have a 401k plan from a previous employer or an IRA, you can roll that over into a self-directed 401k plan or a self-directed IRA. That's what I did to start my business because I didn't want to go into debt at all on mine. So I did my 401k rollover. So you can then, what they mean by the self-directed is that you can then buy stock in any corporation you want to. So you'll create a C corporation for your franchise because the C corporations have the stock certificates. And then what you'll do is you'll just buy stock in your C corporation. So you just transfer that 401k money into your C corporation's checking account. That's the way to do it without going into debt and using your own money. Quite a few of my investors really like using other people's money. So if we're looking at something like an SBA loan, for just an example on that, which we have in the US here, is that if you go into a service industry type franchise, which are generally around $150,000 or $200,000 total investment on those, you would get an express loan, an SBA express loan on that. You put down about $20,000 and then the SBA then puts in the rest of it for you. If you go into something that's a brick and mortar, takes more of a build out, you're probably looking at like a 7A loan. So you'll be putting down about 20% down on whatever the total investment is on that one. With the franchises, they have that proven track record of success. So it's really easy to get a loan for a franchise on that. It really just comes down to your good credit. And the other thing that you have to have, and one of the things to make sure when you look into franchising, is that your net worth matches what the franchise says that you need to qualify for that franchise, because they don't want you running out of money on that one. But most good franchises, if you don't have the net worth, will just tell you no, thank you. But the banks are going to be looking at that net worth, so you have the net worth and you have your credit. Other than that, franchises are pretty easy to get funding for.
Nice. So, okay, we've got this holistic view of franchising, how to get started, where to go, what kind of things we're going to be doing, etc., etc. But you have your own company called Franchise Maven. So I'm wondering if you can talk to me about what Franchise Maven does, how they do it, why they do it, that kind of stuff.
So I really like that. Thank you, Sam. I really like that franchising model when I got into it back way back then. And I like the idea, as I looked into it more throughout the years, is the fact that when you go into your job, you're there from 9 to 5. In my case, I was there from 7 to 5, and they really want you there all the time. They don't want you wandering off or anything like that. They really like to set our desk. What I really wanted to do is bring in money, but still being able to do the things that I wanted to do when I wanted to do them, which is why I got into franchising itself on that. So I enjoyed the fact that it gives me a lot more freedom to bring in the money that I wanted to, in addition to the fact that as I looked into my job, and I talked to my bosses about it, you would have certain levels. As you go up, you're going to hit this level and you're going to make this amount of money. So you're restricted. Once you get to a certain level, they're not going to pay you anymore until you go to the next level. And you're still going to have that restriction. With the franchising model, really the sky's the limit on that. And with the semi-absentee models, and what we're talking about area developer and master franchises, really the sky is a limit on what you can do. It's just about how much time and effort you want to put into it in order to build that income up to whatever you wanted it to be. So I like the fact that I could have the freedom to do what I wanted to do and have the amount of money that I wanted to do. And so what I do for people, since I really like that franchising thing, thought it was great, I like to get it out and get people educated on that, to give them the option. It's good to have options on that. So I'm all about educating people about franchising. Now, franchising isn't right for everybody. I won't tell anybody that, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, because for some people it's not on that one. But as we go along and as I educate you on the different things about franchising, we can make that determination of whether or not franchising is right for you to begin with, and if it is, which franchise is right for you. Just like when I first started, it was very confusing to try and figure out which franchise, who's available in your area, what kind of a background are they looking for in people, what kind of skill set do you need, what's the net worth requirements, what's the liquid requirements, what are the requirements of what you have to do throughout the day to get that. franchise running. What I do is I smooth that process out by asking my people those pertinent questions. Where have you been? So what do you bring to the table? What do you have in your brain that what have you learned throughout the years? What skill sets do you have that franchise is looking for? Where are you at now? Basically, what kind of time are you looking to invest? Do you have to invest? How much money are you comfortable investing in a franchise? Not how much do you have? How much are you comfortable investing in a franchise? And then where do you want to be 5 to 10 years from now? That way, I work with about 500 different franchisors, and I can kind of tailor that to the franchisors who I talk to on a regular basis, who I know are looking for people just like Sam. With Sam's background, with Sam's experience, I know that Sam would be a good fit for this one on that. Now, as I talk to you, Sam, I get to find out what you're looking for. What do you want to see in a franchise? So I can do the matchup between the two of those. And as franchise consultants, we don't charge anything for our services. The franchisors pay us a referral fee. So I'm free to everybody that wants to use me, but I really help streamline that process and make it a lot less confusing and really find franchises that would be a really good fit for you.
Okay. And for you now, do you run any franchises still, or did you kind of sell up and move on to just doing this full time? Like, I'm curious what your kind of involvement right now is with franchises.
So when I right at this moment in time, direct answer to the question, just the franchise consulting. I did both of them for a while, my franchise telecommunications business and the consulting business. But the franchise consulting business got me so busy, I didn't have time to do the other one. So I sold that one off. And it's just amazing how many people are really interested in learning more about franchising and really just, setting the path to life that they want.
Hmm. And do you think that you could start a franchise from an existing business? So let's say you have an accounting firm or some kind of, service-based firm. Could you turn that into a franchise? Is that something that you help people with? Is that something that is possible?
I certainly do, Sam. I've helped a few different businesses do that, turn them into a franchise on that. It's a great way to grow. So if you've got a private business and you want to grow it, if you want to open another unit, you use all your money. Now, the benefit, of course, you get all the profits, but now you've got a whole nother unit you have to operate. So that's kind of a linear growth. As you get more money, you build another unit. Now you've got more people to take care of. If you go into franchising, somebody else is going to use their money. You're not going to get as much because you're just getting the royalties, but you're not using your money for it. But I have people that will actually turn your business into a franchise. We're looking for, generally speaking, some pretty decent earners. We'd really like your franchise to be probably bringing in at least 100,000 or more, because that makes it more attractive to people that are looking into it. If you have one location, that's fine. We've turned franchises into business with one location and help them grow. If you have more than one location, so you've already proven that you can duplicate it, that's more of a benefit, because now it opens up more people who have seen, okay, they make good money, they've opened up more than one unit, so we know that they've already done the duplication or replication of their system in another one. And then the other thing is, what we look at is whatever it is you have to offer, service or product, can almost anybody in almost any city state use it? That'll open it up to even more people. Now, some franchises, like I think there's a boating franchise out there that rents boats. Obviously, in the middle of the desert in New Mexico, it's probably not going to do so well. You're not going to be renting too many boats out there. But there's enough cities and states in the areas where there is water that it'll make it doable, and you'll have enough people coming in that are interested in it.
Mm. And how can we decide whether or not franchising is right for us or not? Whether that's buying one or turning our business into one? What are the things that we should look out for so that we don't start or buy into a franchise wrongly?
Well, Sam, the first thing to take a look at is, are you coachable? That's the one major thing with franchising, is that they're going to be coaching you. They've done it before. They've got the whole process and system done. So are you coachable to do that? The other thing is do you really have the time? Do you have 10 to 15 hours a week to do it? And are you willing to do that? Because most of the people out there, our lives are pretty busy as it is. But if you're looking down the road and you're seeing that I'm not going to be where I want to be in a certain amount of time, then it's good to have that option to check into, to say, okay, am I willing to spend that amount of time to get where I want to be quicker than if I was to continue with the path that I'm on now? And am I willing to invest that money on that? Not everybody is. I'll probably, introduce 4 people to a franchise, and one person may decide to invest in it on that, because the other 3 have just gotten to the point where they've learned enough about it. I've educated them enough franchisors that they talk to have educated enough, and they're like, okay, I'm not quite ready for that just yet. So I've had people come back to me, 1, 2, 3 years later, and they said, okay, hands up, I'm ready now. Let's go do it. But I think as we go through the process and you get more educated on franchising and learn more about them, you'll look within yourself and you'll see that whether or not it is a good time, and whether you are comfortable writing that check for that franchise fee, and then putting in that time and effort into making it happen.
And what are the type of franchises that people tend to either go for or start? Is it service-based stuff? Is it location-based stuff? Because obviously, as you know, there's McDonald's everywhere in the Western world. There's, KFC everywhere in the Western world, Subway everywhere. But I'm sure that service-based businesses don't always need to have a physical location, but they can always be franchised. So I'm wondering which one's more common for people to buy into or start up.
Here recently, Sam, in the last few years, most of the people that I've been talking to, I've really wanted the essential services type franchises. Because they got a little worried after that COVID thing, when a lot of the brick and mortar places had to close their doors for a while if they weren't quite essential. They still made a lot of those brick and mortars did just fine. The fitness franchises, they had online classes, so they were doing fine. The restaurants just had takeout, delivery, so they did okay too. But it kind of scared people a little bit on that. So before COVID, I had a lot of mix between service and restaurant type franchise. After the COVID thing, people have been more steering towards the essential service. So essential service. So what are those? Your heating and air conditioning system. Man, if it's broke, it's gonna be fixed. It's gonna be fixed now, because you're gonna be comfortable around the house, and it doesn't matter what's going on in the economy. You're gonna get it fixed. Same with your plumbing. Your toilet stops up. You're not gonna go outside and get yourself embarrassed in front of the neighbors by going to the bathroom out there. It's just not going to happen. You're going to get that fixed. Electrical. Uh, let's see. We have senior care. Mom and dad's got to be taken care of. They're going to be taken care of. That's going to be good. Tutoring. Tutoring is another one. That's a great essential service out there. Parents always want the best for their kids. They will continue to always want for the best for their kids. Anything health related, labs, chiropractic centers, anything like that has to do with the health and helping people. Those stayed in business. Those do well. Doesn't matter what the economy is doing. Those ones are the ones that people are more looking at. I had somebody come from a real estate investor, wanted to get into a brewery, because they like to hang out at the local brewery. Thought that was a lot of fun. This is cool. I said, okay, we'll take a look at that. And we went through everything else that they wanted to achieve and accomplish. And I said, well, you're got a few real estate investments. Why don't we take a look at something that's related to real estate? They ended up getting into an electrical services franchise and decided that the brewery was just way too much to put that much money into. When they're looking at the numbers, and they saw that the electrical services franchise actually made a lot more than the brewery in the end. So essential services are where most of my people are going these days.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned there about that kind of real estate guy who wanted to do the brewery and actually went with something that's complementary to his current line of business. Because I think a lot of people will go, oh, you should start a business around your passions, and I would argue with them and go, you should start a business around what you're currently doing / what you're capable of doing, and then you have all the time in the world to do your passion or do whatever it is you enjoy doing, rather than sucking the life out of your hobby by making it a full-time job. That's probably the worst thing you can do.
This is true. Just because you're passionate about it doesn't necessarily mean that if you love golf, and you think that a golf shop is going to be the greatest best thing in the world, you're going to be ending up counting golf balls all day and golf clubs all day, and you're not going to be doing a whole lot of golf out there. So get a business that'll run itself and go out there and play golf.
Exactly. And with a view to buying and starting, running, and eventually kind of being successful as a franchisee or franchisor, what do you think the future of franchising is? Because obviously, like you said, during COVID, a lot of different things were happening around the world. Certain things had to close, certain things didn't have to close. And hopefully going forward in the future, there's no kind of COVID-based lockdowns or anything like that. But what do you see the future of franchising looking like? Are there online franchises? Is that a type of thing? What does it look like?
Well, Sam, the online question is great. I haven't found anything good. The tough part we have with the online franchises is competing with the Amazon. Of course, you got to do something that Amazon doesn't do, which is a big challenge on that one. So I haven't seen a whole lot of online franchises, although digital marketing probably comes the closest to it. So we do see a huge digital marketing, a couple of huge digital marketing franchises that are out there. But more and more people, as they work in corporate world for a while, and as they're stuck with that, going to that, 9 to 5 job Monday through Friday, a lot of people are realizing that, as I did, that there's got to be something better out there than this. We can't keep doing this all the time. If we really want to get to where we want to be, franchising is the way to go. And I get a lot and lot more of what we call corporate refugees who want to either get out of the corporate world or do something on the side so they can get out of the corporate world earlier on that one. It's very interesting because way back in the day, before we had the industrial age, people, you had the families working in the fields all the time. And then you started getting into the industrial age, and people are like, I can do something besides, work out in the hot sun for, 12 hours a day. I can work, 9 to 5 and get paid even more. It's like, wow, let's go into the city and let's do that. And then the corporate people were taking really good care of them. You got lots of good pensions, all sorts of good stuff. But then after a while, now the whole corporate world is inundated with people. So corporate world is not always necessarily taking care of you. Not all of them take as good care of you as they should. So you don't have all those benefits that we used to have when it first started. So I think people are realizing that if they want to do something, it's got to be something that they do for themselves. Nobody else is going to do that for them. And they see franchising as a way to do that, since they don't, I know I didn't have the latest, greatest idea as far as a business goes. If you do, great, go for it. If you got the latest, greatest idea, don't be a franchise. Turn it into a franchise later, go out and get it started. But they don't have that idea. Somebody else has already done all the hard work for them to begin with. They just step in, run the playbook, they're off to the races, and they have time for friends and family.
Mm-hmm. That's a very nice, succinct kind of message there. I like the way you put that. And it seems like as well you were previously quite big on self-development. Having read Rich Dad Poor Dad myself, it definitely makes you question your life choices and makes you either take action or just become bitter to the world. And I'm wondering, since then, that would be, a while ago, let's say 10, 20 years ago that you did this. What have you done to maintain, if not improve, your knowledge over the years? Are you still reading things? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you on YouTube channels? How do you do your learning these days?
Podcasts are a great way to do it. Check out Sam's podcast. A lot of great information out there. Uh, Podcasts are a good way to do it if you like doing that. I also do a lot of reading on that. So I was an engineer before I did this. I was a restaurant manager before that. So a restaurant manager was good with people, not good with selling. People came to me. I didn't need to go to them. So I was an engineer, no selling at all. So I realized that as I got out there, and since I was doing everything myself, I had to sell myself specifically. So what I do is I picked up, and it was a little bit of a challenge. Another one of those challenges at first. I didn't mention that part, but the actual going out there and the selling part on that was a bit of a challenge because depending on the product that you have, you may have to convince people with, like I did with the telecommunications, their phone systems weren't broke. They didn't need fixing, but I could find them something a phone system that worked just as good or better for a lesser price on that. But for most people, it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I had to convince them that I'm going to make it better. I'm going to be the one in charge of it, so you don't have to worry about it. I wasn't real good at that to begin with on that. Being an engineer, I showed the data. Here's the data. You like it? Cool. You don't? Okay. We'll go back and, back to the drawing board, try something else. So I went in there to begin with on my first few calls, and they're like, nope. It's like, all right, thanks for your time. I'm out of here. Dennis was like, no, no, no. Everybody's going to tell you no to begin with. Here's what you got to do. So I needed to read books on how to do presentations, how to sell myself, how to show people the benefits on that. So I went in and I read a lot of books on selling. Zig Ziglar, franchise or selling is something that you do with somebody, not to somebody. Helping people, the more you help people get what they want, the more you get what you want. So he was a good Christian guy that really had the mindset of helping people. So that's what I need to do. Jeffrey Gitmore was another book that I read on selling. So I still do a lot of self-help. I'll read, some science fiction, fantasy books and that sort of thing. I'll read one, and then I'll read another self-help book as well. So I'll always mix in some self-help books. Been doing that for the last 12 years now.
Okay. And I wonder if you can tell me some of your favorite self-help books so that the listeners can, go and buy them and get the same great advice that you've got over the years.
Zig Ziglar, Selling 101. Get that one. That's
Yeah.
a good one. Uh, Jeffrey Gitmore, The Sales Manifesto. Always a good one to read there. Good people. They're not trying to sell people. They're not trying to sell, as I say, iced Eskimos. If people don't need it, they don't want it. That's You're not going to get it to them. You don't sell. You don't try and convince somebody of something they don't want. You work with people on that. So those are two of the good books. But always look for the masters in selling, because the masters of selling didn't try and convince people to get something they did not need. They helped them get things that they did need and help them get what they wanted, so you get what you want.
Is that what you find yourself doing as a consultant, is kind of having these open conversations with people to try and find out what exactly it is they want or what they need, and then, kind of pointing them in that right direction, as opposed to going, you need a franchise, buy this one, all right, thanks, I'm out, type thing?
Yeah, I kind of tried that a little bit at first when I first got into consulting. It's like, hey, here's your choices right here in front of you. These are all great choices. You need to get one of them because your life is screwed. You're not going anywhere. And that didn't work. So we had to change up a little bit on that. I didn't quite say it exactly like that, but that is. So that's why I go more into education on that. So that's why I wrote my book, which ended up as a Wall Street Journal bestseller. I was quite amazed. It is step by step what you and I are going to go through to look at franchises, to know what to look for in franchises, real world examples of people that I worked with do it. So if you don't want to use me, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, just there, my book's free on my website. You get the PDF version on there. If you want to pay for it, go to Amazon. I'm cool with that too. But the free version is the PDF there. And if you do it yourselfer, you can go there and you can get that done all by yourself. But what I do is really try to educate people on what franchising is all about, show them that it is an option, because I find that's a lot better than trying to do. I was never really good at the direct sales approach. That's why I read these masters of different sales. Uh, I found that just educating people and just finding out and really listening to them is a really key on that one. So the person that wanted the brewery, as I listened to him and his wife, I realized that brewery wasn't what they wanted. Oh, really? It's something that sounded cool. But as I was listening to them explain to me, what they were looking for, I realized you just need another investment that brings a lot of money, something that you're comfortable with. So yes, Sam, direct answer to the question is, yeah, I try and look at people, try and help them, give them options, and give them the information they need, and then answer any questions that they have, but to let them decide on their own, is this the right path for them?
Hmm. And so the listener can kind of self-select and sort here. What type of people do you normally work with? What kind of situation are they in? What period of their life are they in? Are they looking to retire? Are they young? Are they middle-aged? Where should they be based? Talk to me about that kind of stuff.
So start with the last question first. Where are they based at? I've got people that I work with all over the world. Actually, most of my people in the United States, because I'm in the United States. But I brought people into the United States on visas, E2 and EB5 visas, and I've taken franchise outside the United States as well. So I can do both. When I first started doing this, my age group was probably 45 to 65, 80% males. Now, 10 years later, my age group has gone down to 30, sometimes even less than that, and about 50-50 male and female on that one. Basically, a lot of my people that I work with, I'd have to say, have already run a business within a business. Not all of them, but a vast majority have already been managers, supervisors. So they already know how to work with people. They already know how to run that business within a business in there. And the majority of them are corporate people who, again, are just disenfranchised, yeah, as franchise, you play on the words there, with the corporate world itself on there. And they really want to do and try something different. But it's amazing how that age group has grown and how many younger people are looking at that and saying, this is just not the life for me, doing that corporate thing on there. And the women in franchising has just grown immensely in the past few years. Some examples, I had a lady in engineering. She got a couple kids and she wanted to get into tutoring. So we got her into tutoring, but she's looking at that engineering career and saying, I got two kids. I just do the engineering thing all the time. I got to be able to at some point in time, spend more time with my kids. Um, then I have another gentleman who he just absolutely just got tired of traveling. A lot of people have to travel with their jobs, and he just got tired of traveling. So he actually left his job, picked up a franchise, built it up after 3 years, called me up, said, let's sell it, sold the franchise, and then got him into another one on there, which is just like, wow, totally cool. So amazing people, all sorts of different folks.
Cool. And what kind of advice do you have for people that are aspiring to be an entrepreneur or a franchise owner?
It's good to have options. Look into franchising on that. There's my book, which of course I recommend to read on franchising itself. But there are many different types of books to read on franchising, many different authors on franchising out there. Feel the fear and do it anyway on that one. And there's a couple others I can recommend if anybody wants them that are good books. But get more information on franchising, read up more about it, because I find it is a good option for most people on that. Whether it's not, it's good for you. You'll kind of figure out as you start reading these and realizing what you have to do. But if you are looking to do a franchise, the one thing that I would say the best advice, and if you want to do really good in a franchise, is when you're talking with those franchisees of the franchise that you're looking into, have the franchisor tell you and introduce you to the ones that are doing the best out there, that are making the most money. Talk to them about what they do on a regular basis, on a daily basis. Picture in your mind yourself doing that, or see if you can. If you can picture yourself in your mind doing what they do, you know you're on the right track. If you can't, well, probably try and move on to another one or hire somebody to do it for you.
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Well, Greg, I have a question to ask you that I ask every single guest on the show. And the answer is always different because every business is different, every person is different, and what they do in life is different. But the question I want to ask you is, what is it about what you do that brings you the most joy?
Watching people succeed. I try and keep track of everybody that I put into franchising. Sometimes I get too busy, but I love hearing my success stories. That couple that I put into the electrical services franchise, they wanted to do it semi-absentee to begin with. I just dealt with the husband. At the very end of as we're going through the process, his wife stood up and said, "We're not going to run this semi-passive. I'm going to run it myself. I can do that." They are going to be rookies of the year this year on that because they're doing so well. The gentleman that I said stepped out of his role as an employee and got it, and he came back 3 years later. I don't know why he was calling me. He just called me up out of the blue one day and wanted to talk to me. I'm like, "Oh, I hope it's okay." And he's like, "No, I'm great. I'm selling it. I've built it up enough where I can get rid of it. I'm successful, and I got enough money to buy, an even different and larger franchise system on that." Love hearing the success stories and people taking control of their lives.
Where can the people find you online?
Go to my website, franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, MAV as in Victor, EN.com. You can email me at greg@franchisemaven.com or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
Thank you for listening to People Explained. New episodes come out every Monday. We would appreciate it if you gave us a review on Apple Podcasts and shared this episode with a friend.